Hello, welcome back to another Onkruid video, welcome back to another unedited Soulstone Survivors video. Let's go for a nice and calm little Curse 4 run, a nice little Curse 4 run on the second map, the Caves of Dal Zong. Not to be confused with the Caves of Ma Dong, which is the inside of your mother. That's not a way to open up a video, right? But I'm trying to get the comedic juices flowing a little bit. Talked about this in the Noita video I just recorded, which is, I mean, I'm not even gonna try and give you an idea of how the backlog is shaped up right now and whether you will have seen the Noita video or this video first. If you even watch all my videos, you probably will have seen this video first though. I digress. And I talked about like having some imposter syndrome lately because I've been, pardon me, listening to a lot of Northernlion videos again. And I say listening to, I also watch them sometimes, but most of the time I fall asleep to them, so it's more listening to. And I was talking about feelings of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, if you don't know, it's not an Among Us update. It's actually about feeling like you don't really belong and you don't really deserve the life you are leading right now. That's my kind of summary of it. You feel like you just got to the position you are right now by getting extremely lucky. And you don't actually have the skills or the capacities to do what you are doing. It's very, very much prevalent in my line of work, in a psychologist or a therapist. We often have that. Because sometimes those feelings come up like, wait, am I not just like listening to this client and I'm not even adding anything of value to their life? How will I ever be able to help them? Things like that. Or I wasn't even paying full attention in this session. This guy has probably noticed, how did I even get here? I'm not a good therapist. All those things often occur, and that is why my job is one of the highest suicide rates of all jobs. Not something you should poke fun of, but I guess humor is my coping mechanism. And either way, I also had it in terms of YouTube because of watching and listening to a lot of Northernlion, because he is just like the funniest individual in the planet. I think his quick wit, his ability to create kind of associations between topics out of the blue, just something you have not thought about ever connecting, and he just connects those topics effortlessly. It's something unique. It's something I think I can't find ever in any other YouTuber. Of course, there's a lot of other funny YouTubers. I don't want to say that. Like, for example, youtube.com/c/Onkruid. That's a pretty funny guy. But also, for example, like, let's just give a random example, iDubbbz and stuff. iDubbbz can be very funny. It might be a bit of a controversial opinion because not everybody likes iDubbbz, but also other people. People like Ludwig. Ludwig can make very, very funny jokes in his YouTube videos, but most of the time those jokes are, I feel like, a bit more thought out, a bit more written beforehand. Written beforehand, not really impulsively appeared in the top of their dome piece right on the spot. They don't have the freestyle capacities like I have, because I'm freestyling it up. You better believe it. All you can say is yup. You can only just agree, and you can't deny that when I start freestyling, things get pretty fly. Oh, if any record deals want to contact me, the email address is in the description. But either way, by listening to Northernlion like that, or watching or whatever, I'm not gonna keep repeating myself every single time, I felt like, wait, this guy is so effortlessly funny the entire time. And, oh, sorry, I was distracted a little bit because I saw that I got an email from my accountant. Very hype. Yeah, hype. Emails from accountant, that's so hype. This makes my day. Yeah, either way, I felt like I am never gonna achieve that goal. And that's where the imposter syndrome came in, right? I have already 200 subscribers, which is insane. That's an immense amount of people, and I am so proud of myself and all of you guys for sticking around here. Really give it up for yourselves. You make my life a better place, that's for sure. Might start crying in a second. And then I was feeling like, wait, why are those people here? Why would they ever watch me? I don't have such quick wit. I don't have that kind of humor. I always have to think about my jokes for hours and hours, and then often they don't even land. And that's prime example, not prime rib, which is tasty, but a prime example of imposter syndrome, you know? Feeling that you don't actually can handle the position you are in. And it's definitely a feeling that I am glad I can be open about, because not only do I find it extremely important to be open about mental health, because like my entire job relies on people being open about that, but also because it gives me some free content to talk about, and I don't have to think of anything creative on the spot, which I can do, because imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. It's a devilish trait we humans have. And it's something that in terms of therapy, in terms of my psychotherapy, in terms of my psychotherapy job, career is the word I was looking for, or it's actually a psychological counseling job, but let's be honest, I'm doing therapy. Don't arrest me, federal government of Belgium, the FGB. Please don't arrest me, I'm just trying to help people. In that line of work, or in my line of work, I've kind of gotten rid of those feelings already. Of course, there's still some insecurity, but I just recently read this amazing little article or blog post about insecurity in our line of work and how it is actually a-okay to experience that. And sometimes that insecurity can actually be a helpful tool in therapy, because the insecurity can, for example, take the shape of, you know what, you don't know, I don't even know either. Even though I'm the therapist, I don't know either. I am with my hands in my hair for a second as well. Aha! And that's really where everything comes full circle, because there I can feel imposter syndrome towards Northernline, because he can't put his hands in his hair. Either way, he's bald. In the job world, when I'm doing therapy, I don't get those feelings often at all. They still exist, and insecurity is okay, but I don't often feel like, oh man, that was such a bad session. I really didn't add any value to that person's life. Why do they pay me? Why am I here? How did I ever graduate? How am I doing this line of work? I am a failure. Those feelings, no. They might still be somewhere in the back of my mind on the back burner when I have like a session that I'm not completely satisfied with. But that doesn't happen often. And that is because I have lowered my expectations. I have lowered my expectations towards myself and towards what we as therapists can do. Don't get me wrong. Therapy, a godsend. Really like a gift from God. It is something that everybody, I think, can benefit from in some way, shape or form. But that's the catch. That's the core element right there. In some way, shape or form. I don't want to say, or I don't want to propose that therapy can solve everybody's problems, because that's definitely not true, but everybody can achieve some kind of benefit from it, to just being open, talking about stuff, and having someone across from them that kind of puts up a mirror, that listens very attentively, but that also can kind of scoop them out of their comfort zone, you know, and put them into a new zone in life. Let them think about new perspectives on the questions they are asking. And that's all I need to do. That's all they are there for. And I don't need to feel like I am not solving their problems quickly enough, or we are not making quick enough progress. Of course, it's always more fun when a client tells you after like only 3 sessions, yeah, I've really started noticing changes already, thank you so much. Versus a client that after 15 sessions is like, I don't really feel it, I might go to another therapist. Of course, that will kind of eat away at your self-esteem a little bit and at your feelings of proficiency in your job, but you need to give that a space, you need to give that time, and you need to kind of process that. It's just part of our work. And you then, for that final session where the person tells you that 15th session, you just charge them double and you move on with your day, you know? Not true, don't do that at all. And I think that's the main trigger for my feelings of imposter syndrome, actually the amount of money that I have to charge these people. But then again, I mean, life is expensive. I need to pay my own rent, you know? I need to pay my rent, so I only get paid for seeing clients, so I need to get some bucks out of there, you know? For example, today I'm seeing 3 clients. That's not necessarily the most, but I need to make sure that I can still earn a living. And the kind of goal we are working towards is to kind of have 6 clients on 4 days of the week, if possible. Which is quite a difficult goal to achieve probably, but I think it's gonna actually be feasible now that my agenda has been, and my schedule has been filled up quite nicely. It went a lot faster than I expected, so that's something I'm really satisfied about actually. And something I'm grateful for the opportunities that life has presented to me. And always remain grateful to my parents as well. Something we've talked about probably like 20 episodes ago or something, but that gratefulness towards your parents and keeping true to your roots. and making sure that you never forget that whatever happens to you in life in some way can be traced back to the effort your parents put into you. If your parents didn't pay for your education while you were younger, you probably would have never gotten where you are now. And of course, this is not true for every single person. There are definitely people out there that have parents that mistreated them. Parents that actually, instead of being able to be thankful to your parents, you can blame them for a bunch of things that went wrong in your life. And I'm very sorry if you're in that situation, but just disregard what I'm saying, then it doesn't apply to you. Considering there are almost 200 people subscribed to this channel, or more than 200 people subscribed to this channel rather, there's gonna be people in here with a lot of different life stories, and it's gonna be hard to kind of find, let's say, a general consensus, something that we all have in common, except for probably that we all love video games or psychology or books. That's probably one of the things that we have in common, because otherwise why would you be here? Maybe you're just here to support me as a person, which would be absolutely AFK. Whatever reason people have for subscribing to this channel, just seeing that number steadily but surely flow up is one of the main driving factors that still gets me out of bed every single day. Which is not to say that I pinpoint my entire life value and on YouTube and that it's my only valuable activity. No, my work is definitely also very valuable to me, but still, it's my passion. It's my talent, if you will, because I feel like I've grown a lot in creating YouTube videos as well. Even though some people might say like, wait, you're just rambling into the mic for 11 minutes and you haven't actually said anything constructive or anything, but I'm not going to talk about those thoughts because that's the imposter syndrome talking in my mind again. Maybe people are just like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive that he can just talk continuously for 12 minutes and actually have a flowing conversation with himself. Some dialogue in a sense. He's not just monologuing, he's actually dialoguing and he's kind of talking to us, which might be true, might not be true. It's definitely true when I ask you guys how you are doing and then I talk about how I am doing. That's a bit of a dialogue and it's a bit of a small little life hack that I can give you if you're into content creation or stuff like that. Ask a question instead of answering a question. That makes the video feel a bit more natural, a bit more organic. You guys agree? See? See? Thought I was talking to you, right? I hope you don't have a delusion of grandeur right now, or a delusion, another type of delusion where you think that I am talking directly through you, to you, through the power of the internet. Not that I'm Boogie 2188 or anything, but I do use the power of the internet as well. Get that reference, 3 respect points. Legendary internet creature, internet specimen. I don't think he is the best example or a role model when it comes to content creation or anything, because he also tried to be open about his mental health, I guess, but in a bit of a worse way, I think. Not really a productive way. But then again, being open about your mental health can, I think, almost always be productive. A little tired. It's almost the end of the week. Had a day yesterday. I had a day yesterday, can you believe it? Has anybody heard about this? Does anybody else have days the day before the day we are in right now? I had a day yesterday with 4 clients, which is okay, that's not too much, but they were all in the morning. At 8 o'clock and then at 10, 11 and 12. So, short pain, if you will. Saw all of them in quick succession and then I had the entire afternoon to write reports, study a bit, read some things, create a flyer for my other workspace, kind of show a bit of engagement even though I don't get paid for it, because that will mean that in the future they might pay me a bit more if they see that I am very much interested in helping them out. Why is this crystal not coming over to me? Oh, right now it is. Let's go for 1 endless cycle, just because we're still working on the achievement. But yeah, starting therapy, the first session at 8 in the morning, that's quite intense, you know. It's definitely my limit. I won't go any further down the clock's timeline than 8, but 8 is already like quite early. A lot of people just want that moment, or they want 8 o'clock in the morning because it's helpful for them to do it right before work. And well, of course you can... Most people don't have the opportunity like me today, for example, to say that they only have to start working at 2 in the afternoon and their eyes are the size of the moon. So that's exactly why most people want that 8 o'clock slot. I don't do it on every day though. Thursday is most of the time my 8 o'clock day. And it's quite a harrowing combination really, because it is combined with the fact that on Wednesday we sometimes have a team meeting until 9 p.m. So yeah, those are some tiring days. But I definitely love it. I still love it. I just need to learn to adapt my schedule a little bit. And then I'm talking about my sleep schedule. I sometimes try to get into bed a little bit earlier Wednesday if I know that I have to get up at 8 on Thursday, but most of the time I still have like 14 run-throughs of my Lord of the Rings marathon to go through every single night, which is something I do every night, by the way. I watch all 3 movies. If you didn't know that about me, that's a small little fact. So that sometimes keeps me up until 4 in the morning, and then having to then get into bed and have enough sleep to get up at 8, that's a bit hard sometimes. All jokes aside though, I often get into bed at a reasonable hour, but YouTube can just always entice me. I most of the time watch like 1 or 2 videos, and it's just my routine of falling to bed. It's not something I want to change because I know that it works and I know that I get a lot of value from it actually. I watch 1 or 2 videos of a Northern Line, for example, especially when he's playing Switch Golf Sports. And then I listen to another video, something more podcasty most of the time, or Northern Line reading the MIDS or Reddit, which is some of the best content ever created on YouTube. And then I fall asleep while, pardon me, listening to that. I'm very burpy today. Might have something to do with my morning coffee. Oh, I still have some, that's delicious. So yeah, it's definitely something that I fall into, watching YouTube while in bed and before falling asleep. It's something I would not advise my clients to do because it conditions yourself to relate your bed to something else than purely sleeping. And of course, you can also relate your bed to some other things, but those are not child friendly, so we're not going to be talking about that. Yes, I am talking about reading Mein Kampf under the covers with a little flashlight. Watch Harry Potter 3. You can see Harry do it at the start of the movie actually. No, but I completely lost my train of thought because of that poorly timed, poorly framed and all in all bad joke, but I'm still proud that I attempted it. What was I talking about? Yeah, alright, so it's not something I would advise my clients because it's not part of good sleep hygiene, but it is part of my system of falling asleep. And he's calling a cab and now she's having a smoke and he's taking a drag. But also I don't mind it at all because I still get enough sleep in there almost every single night. And some nights I just put my phone away immediately and don't listen to anything or watch anything, and then I fall asleep a bit slower, I feel like often, because it helps me to kind of cloud my thoughts with YouTube videos. And with listening to something while falling asleep, that is like the actual main beneficial factor. That's what really helps me out immensely. Because, for example, I'm so focused on what the 2 people in the podcast conversation, a lot of Lex Friedman lately, and sometimes also Andrew Huberman, what they are saying to each other, that fogs up my mind so intensely, so intensively, that I don't have room for my own well thought out thoughts to come up, to prop up. So then I will just be like chilling. I will be listening to them, trying to decipher everything they are saying and trying to give that a space in my mind and kind of process all the things that I hear, because it's important to derive value from it. And then in the meantime, my mind will still be proposing some thoughts as well. And that's really where the beauty comes in, right? Because those 2 things just can't coexist. My mind can't handle it. And then my mind, I feel like, is just like, all right, you know, if you're going to try to torture me like this, then I will just go to sleep. I'm not even gonna bother doing this right now. I can't with this shit right now. And then it just puts me to sleep right away. And it's a very beneficial approach for me because it saves me a lot of hours of just mindlessly lying there in bed trying to fall asleep. No, now I am deriving value from my evening right up until the last moment. And again, it's not something I would advise anybody to do. It's not something that's gonna work for everyone, but it works for me. Just yesterday, for example, because I am seeing a lot of clients right now that are talking about relationships and how their relationships have kind of been messed up. Their relationships have been broken and they found new partners. Or, for example, their parents have split up and they have new partners and they can't deal with that easily. They find it very troubling to have kind of intruders in their house. The new partners of their parents never feel like their actual parents, so they can't be vulnerable in their own house, in their normal safe space. They don't allow themselves to be vulnerable anymore. Like a real case that I had yesterday, which is very harrowing and very sad for her. But because relationships are such a prominent topic in my sessions lately, I looked for a podcast episode about that topic. And I found an episode of Lex Friedman where he was talking about, I'm gonna get rid of shrapnel bomb by the way, where he was talking about those topics, and especially sexuality and sexual attraction between humans, with an evolutionary psychologist. And that was so interesting. Of course, he is a bit biased because it's his domain of research, but one thing I definitely remember, and this is also key, I definitely don't remember everything because I'm just falling asleep and he's calling a cab, but I'm definitely trying to remember at least one thing of every video I listen to before I fall to sleep. And one thing I can remember is that Lex, the podcast host, asked him like, hey, what do you think kind of triggered the actual development of Homo sapiens? A lot of people will tell you that it's fire and cooking or maybe writing or stuff like that, but what do you see as like what makes us different from the previous species of humanoids? And that's where the podcast guest interpreted it in the sense of, I think our sexual attraction systems and our sexual mating systems are actually what diversify us from our predecessors and from a lot of animal species that still exist to this day, from contemporary animal species, if you will. And it was such an interesting point because, come to think of it, I mean, you kind of realize it sometimes because you're in the middle of it most times. You're in the middle of it a lot of times, in the middle of like sexual attraction systems and mating systems in humans, because we all are sexual beings and we are social and loving beings. So most of us are often in a relationship or chasing a relationship, or at least thinking about the other sex and how we could, for example, procreate with them. But the complexity and the intricacies of those systems in our current human species. That's what the podcast guest, what the evolutionary psychologist that was on the podcast, that they told Lex, like, I think that's what separates us from others. That's what separates us from our predecessors, from our ancestors, and also from other animals on Earth. Such an interesting topic. A bit of a taboo topic maybe, because people are like, ooh, sex, that's so crazy, we are never gonna talk about it. And then all of a sudden, when you see your 12-year-old child masturbating to his hentai body pillow because that's the only sexual kind of education he found online, you think like, where did I go wrong? And the answer to that question is, you didn't tell him about the birds and the bees, my man. You didn't tell him about the birds and the bees. Classic parenting mistake, not telling your children about the birds and the bees. I can definitely remember one of my girlfriend's families, one of their parties, their get-togethers for Christmas or whatever it was, and one of the children of her family was like, hey, this doll doesn't have a penis, it has something else, what is this? And the parents were just like very open. They were like, oh, you know, boys have penises, alright, but this doll is actually a female doll, so it has what is called a vagina. And I was really proud of that. I found that to be heartwarming, really, and to be very, what should I say, empowering, to be very validating, to feel like, yeah, good on you. Good on you for being open about this. And of course they laughed with it a little bit, and everybody laughed a little bit, and that's a-okay. But just the fact that you take that chance to educate your child, and you're not something like, oh, that's something I will tell you when you're older. No, it's an important topic of life and of being human, so definitely just openly talk about it, openly discuss it. I get that the other way around, for children to discuss it with their parents, that's a bit more difficult, but find someone else in your life that can educate you a little bit. Or look for resources online. Or, and this is the take-home message for this episode, pay attention in sexual ed class, sexual education class, for all the non-cool abbreviation lingo people out there. It feels crazy when you're still a child and they're all of a sudden telling you like, this is how you put on a condom so that you don't get sexually transmitted diseases. You smile a bit, you laugh a bit, ew, it feels so oily, it feels so sticky, that's all a-okay. I mean, we're still children after all. But make sure that you get some information out of it as well, that you take home some information, because it's the topics that are discussed there are so vital for the rest of your life. And it's very, very important to pay attention to them in some way, shape or form. Of course, you can still smile and poke fun at it because it is a funny experience, especially because most of the time it is in a class with your friends, so it's hard to take it seriously. But try to, at least afterwards, then when you come home, really think about some of the things you learned today and how you're going to apply them to the rest of your life. Because sex ed class is actually important. It's actually an important part of being human. And it is, according to some people even, what separates us from other forms of being human and other forms of life in general on Earth. Thank you very much for watching and listening to me ramble on about sexuality and sexual education. Slowly but surely, we are getting there, of course. I predict 94.8%. Oh, damn. We're actually almost there. Thank you. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.